TV, 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and we are streaming at YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We are recording, and we have our guest, Jake McCandless, standing by. Our chat room's waiting. We're starting a countdown to Studio 33 Alpha, starting now. What did I just do? Okay, here, let's try this again. We're going to do a countdown to... Yeah, it's a new studio, folks. I don't know where all the buttons are yet, so they moved them. I moved them. Anyway, okay. Well, good evening and welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasic, and every month, well, except last month, standfirmministries.com. Jake McCandless stops in and shares with us what's going on, and he sent me an email saying, well, what are we going to talk about? I said, well, whatever you were going to say last month and this month. So I promise you that we will not be going 30 minutes. We will be going about 20, but nonetheless. Jake, I forget what your excuse was last month. What was it?
Well, it's like 2 or 3 months in a row. It's you're giving me credit. So the first excuse was I've been coaching 8 and under softball, and so that was the big excuse. And then last month we were on family vacation. So So daughters played. One played 8U, one played 10U. Coaching the 8U, we won 2, and so the last 2, and so before that we were kind of like the Bad News Bears of a girls' little league softball. So it was good to see it go good.
Well, I understand there's a lot of things you're still doing, and I know you've always got something new you want to talk about. But let's take a look in the rearview mirror and look at all the things in the wake of your ministry. You and Sherry Lynn Bispano get together on Fridays.
Yeah, so we're in our 53rd episode, I think, this week. It's crazy how that begins to accumulate, isn't it? So I guess we're still in the baby stage compared to what you've been doing. But so Thursday nights I teach. I've been working through for the past year these conferences I was doing in churches before COVID happened, and so of course took it on air. And so what I was doing then, I would come in and speak and just begin to speak on standing firm, remaining faithful, now and in the future. And then if they didn't think I was crazy, we tried to set up a relationship where I'd come back and teach through a series of 9 lessons. So we put all of them online. We finished that. And so we actually did that twice. We did it once and then we redid them. So we've been doing it for about 2 years. And so we just started the other 2 nights ago. I teach for 25 minutes on Thursday night, give myself a max, cut off time. And then we turn around on Friday at noon and talk about it and take questions, take comments that came in from the teaching Thursday night, take them as they're coming in. And so we do that for about 30 minutes. And then we bring on a guest that knows what they're talking about in the same area that I talked about. And so you really get if you're able to tune in or watch it later, you really get the full tilt of everything. So like last week I talked about, I just walked through a simple timeline of events that are going to happen at the end of the age. And of course, you got plenty of questions and comments. You'd love this one. I got one comment was, Jake, is that alfalfa hair that you have? So we went through that, got all those questions, comments, worked through those. And then we had a guest on who is really an expert in the understanding the Hebrew calendar and how that connects with all that. So it's really been a really cool 360 work of different topics. And so it's going well.
So you do the thing on Thursday. So it's interactive in kind of a way. It's not real time interactive, but you follow up. I've always
it is real time on Fridays at noon. It is real time, so we're taking questions and comments there. But then we collect them from the previous night, which is live as well. But
yeah, I've thought about maybe having a fifth quarter. At PJNet, where afterwards, everybody can come on and talk. But I figured, first of all, I've got too much to do. I need somebody else to host it. But secondly, what if nobody showed up?
That was what we were afraid of. And I tell you, we've got a new website coming up hopefully, I mean, which is like inches away from it being done. So probably the next couple of days, it's going to be live. It's been just kind of sitting out there for a couple of months with that, and so we were having to write some bios about what's going on, and it's amazing. We're now carried on 13 channels across YouTube and Facebook, and which represents 170,000 subscribers. It's just amazing. So we were just on my channel for several episodes, and then got picked up by some others, and it was amazing to see, you know, the impact that's had, and it's an international audience, and so we get all kinds of stuff, all kinds of feedback. It's great. So, and of course, if you're talking about end of the age stuff, it's all kinds of wild comments that you get.
Well, but you present it well. A lot of it's easy, or I guess it's easy. It's easy to gain an audience by being dramatic and stoking up fear, fear mongering. And I hate to say there is an appetite for that. But talking about end times has to go beyond, oh my God, the Armageddon.
Yeah, no, and I realized this the very first time I spoke on end time prophecy. I had written a blog post that got some traction around the blood moon time, and so I got invited into a church to speak on it, and so they advertised it big. This guy's going to talk about the 4 blood moons and all this stuff, and so I show up to the church, and the church is full. They got people in the choir loft. It was so full to hear, and so I walked through, how the Bible talks about some signs and some of the connections there, and I get at the end, I'm like, so is this a sign? I have no idea. Scripturally, this is all I know. And you just felt the air come out of the room, and I knew just then that it was gonna be tough for me to do this deal, because I mean, it's two things. You either have the dramatic, or you have that the speaker, the teacher, acts as if they've got keys to the code or something, and they're, because of what they can tell you then can understand it. Well, what we're trying to do, or I'm trying to do, is just to come in and say, all of us can just read the text and just take it for what it says and know what's there. And that's not as exciting as some others.
Yeah. You remember in the 1st or 2nd century, the Gnosticism cult claiming to have some special knowledge that the rest of us don't have,
Well, you can just think through books that are out there. And I'm not trying to name one. If I name one, I'm accidentally doing that. But like the Revelation Code, or Unlocking the Mysteries of the Mark of the Beast, or the Babylonian Code, or different things like that. It talks to these codes. It's not a code to understand it. The Book of Revelation was a letter sent to at least 7 churches to start with, and it's just simple. And of course, it's not just the Book of Revelation, but so that's one of the things that really have tried to combat is just I feel like sometimes, like William Tyndale, when the start of the English Bible, is he said he wanted every plowboy to have a Bible in his hand to be able to read it. And I feel like we've made end time stuff like something that we can't all understand. And so trying to say, hey, all of us can, begin to understand some of it and work through it.
Well, doesn't it say in Revelation that not even the angels know when the day of the second coming is? So
the exact timing, absolutely. Yeah. So somebody's shooting a date. Now it is interesting in Matthew 24 where Jesus says, "No one days the day or the hour except the Father." Just a few verses before that, though, he talks about they should recognize the season, and so I think we've got to put those two together. It's like we don't know the exact timing, but we can know and should be able to know the season that it's going to come to.
Now, Jake, I know that you're quite the outdoorsman. I see your trophies on the wall behind you there, and I'm going to ask you a question that not many people are going to understand. Do you know what a dog fennel is?
Say it again.
Okay, I guess you don't. Dog fennel is basically a weed. And it's a stalk that grows about 7 to 8 feet high, and it blooms, and we use it to build duck blinds. Okay, so it's because the frost doesn't affect it; it's already dead. And it's a stick.
See.
Back in the old days, you could actually drive you could poke stuff in the in the lake. Where now you have to affix your blind to the boat. You can't be polluting our lakes with things like plants.
I haven't duck hunted enough. I guess that's the problem there.
The reason I bring that up is it is pretty reliable that 6 weeks after the dog fennels bloom will be the first frost. pretty reliable in this part of the country. Now,
Yes.
so there are signs. There are things that
Yeah.
you can predict. It's like I can predict if I'm in a conversation with my wife, for example. I can predict when I am in error because if I said something, it's wrong. It's
Yeah. Yeah. I pretty much just assume I'm in error. So yeah. But I mean, exactly right. Like here, I fish a lot. So if the dogwoods are blooming, supposedly the bass should be spawning, which I tend to say you should be fishing a little before they were blooming, but still, it's one of the top signs like you're talking about.
Have you ever heard that myth? That when you're fishing around a pond, that you can smell the fish bedding. Have you ever heard that?
Well, I've heard people talk something along those lines, smelling them or
what you're
yeah.
smelling is a moccasin. They have an odor.
Oh,
Yeah, so people say, this is where the fish. It's like, no, you can't smell something underwater, and fish spawning really don't have an odor. I mean, this is nonsense. But I learned that the hard way, Jake. There are many dead moccasins in my path.
I'm not a fan of snakes, so yeah, I'd stay away from that.
Yeah, well, you don't have to worry about snakes when you turkey hunt, do you?
Oh yeah, you do. Make sure you look before you sit down on the side of a tree.
Yeah, hard to
It
get
depends on where you're
treatment.
at. Some places it's cool enough. So I had one. This was actually fishing early in the year, like February, and I was walking. Had to walk through the woods to get to this pond, and I'm walking, and I look down. It was this crazy looking flower, and I'm like, "What is this? No, why is it blooming now?" And I just stood there and looked at it for a long time. It was a cottonmouth with its mouth fully open, but it was so cool enough that it just wasn't active. I stood just within inches of it, just looking at it like an idiot. And then before I saw the rest of it, and then ran. But yeah, that's so if you catch it just right, they're not going to be active.
I've seen them duck hunting. The snakes are cold and they're cold blooded, so they don't move very fast. But if you make one mad, moccasins, by the way, will pursue you. They're very aggressive. I used to frog gig, so you're wading in the water, and if you see frog eyes are yellow, and they're about that far apart. Now, if you see two yellow eyes that far apart, that's called a gator, an alligator. Don't do that. Right. But if you see two red eyes, that's a moccasin, and they will pursue you. They'll actually hunt you down. They're like a yellow jacket. They're very aggressive. Anyway, as we digress,
Science lesson for the day.
Well, our resident beekeeper he's in the chat room, and I'm sure he is affirming the truth of all that I am saying. And you said you had a new website about to launch.
Yeah. So hopefully, just in a couple of days, we've been working on it for quite a while, and just trying to simplify everything. You know how it is. It's I'm terrible about this. Maybe not everybody in the chats like this, but I'll start one project over here. I like to start projects. I don't like to necessarily follow them through. And so that's a lot of it is. But so our website is very outdated, and so trying to get that. And one thing with things hopefully opening up with COVID is trying to get out there and share more, of course, than this past year. So we've really honed it in to focus on that aspect.
So tell us about now. Okay, so that's a look back. You've done your softball coaching, okay, to no avail, to little avail.
Yes.
We
didn't even bother. We actually had vacationed on Trophy Day. We just didn't even bother. So we knew we were out of the running. So,
how much weight have you lost, Jake?
86 pounds. So it's been maintaining since January, February. But we started just Monday, the whole family, and so doing we're calling it the 30-day McCandless Health Challenge. Anyway, so we started
you'll lose
that,
a month.
And yeah. So we're doing it as a family now. So I'm trying to get to that 100 mark, just so I can say I did. So that's the push right now.
I lost 95 pounds in 90 days one time.
It's
when I was 48 years. not very smart, to tell you the truth, but I was highly motivated and was unemployed. So why not?
Did you lose your gallbladder in the process?
No, I
Oh, okay.
yeah. I found out it's actually cheaper to become a personal trainer than to hire one.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely. There you
It
go.
is.
Absolutely, yeah.
In fact, I'm going to
Yeah.
give you about $600 worth of personal trainer right now. It's real. They try to make this sound like it's really complicated and they're specialized in their knowledge. Okay, here's 90% of what you need to know. The number 220, got that in your head? Subtract your age. Got it? That will
Okay.
be approximately 100% of your heart rate. That's pretty close. Okay. So you take 100% of your heart rate, which is 220 minus your age, get your heart rate to 80% get to 80% heart rate. Keep it there for 20 minutes and then keep it there a little longer. Your body, let's talk about God. He's a good engineer. When God
Yes,
engineered
it is.
our bodies, a couple of things that have changed since then. First of all, when we need to get meat, we go to the grocery store and it's just there. We
Right.
just get it.
Yes.
It has not always been thus. You had to hunt and kill, and just because you hunted didn't mean that you brought home any groceries. And it was you might have to, it was a lot more physical activity than going to Publix. The other thing is that today, when it's cold, we go inside. But it has not always been thus. Okay, we lived in caves that weren't quite as well insulated, and so as a result of that, your body is kind of engineered to preserve fat, to produce fat, and it will only burn fat when there is absolutely nothing else. It will exhaust everything but that. So basically, after 20 minutes at 80% heart rate, your body has metabolized all the sugars in your bloodstream and all the other stores, and then it starts to metabolize fat. So if the first time you do that, you'll think it's going to kill you, but you'll find that it won't. But once you hit that 20-minute mark, and so it doesn't matter what the activity is. I'm a strong believer in aerobics. Doesn't matter. Just get your heart rate to 80%. Keep it there for 20 minutes. Then know that you're starting to burn fat, and you can lose weight. Then go get you a double bacon cheeseburger and French fries and a milkshake. That's that works.
I'm taking notes.
All right.
Taking notes. Good stuff.
Looking into the future, Jake, we won't see you for another month. What's going to happen between now and then?
Yeah, well, hopefully the website gets released. Really exciting stuff, and I think I touched on it when we launched it at our church that we've restructured. We've said what we were asked of our congregation is to prioritize their geographically located small group, which we're calling church plants,
Mm-hmm.
and over their Sunday morning service. And through that, we're learning to disciple unto conversion. Typically we work towards, hey, someone gets saved, then we need to disciple. We're actually trying to work through walking through. So we've got a study we've written called the Live Epic Dare, and so it goes through. We try to make the story bigger, and so it's a 10-week study, and so we're doing that. So we've worked through that as a church. We launch in September. We'll be meeting in our groups, and everybody's been challenged to bring someone to be a part of that. So it's super stoked about that, and continuing that small group theme. We've launched our Stand Firm Circle, which tonight one met, and I wasn't there, which is so exciting that we've trained leaders now who's
Mm-hmm.
taken the reins and leading those groups. And I just love Tuesday nights or Wednesday mornings when I get the feedback of how it went, and so really excited and look forward to seeing that hopefully multiply as well. And so I think that's really where it's at, especially where things are right now, is getting smaller, I think, in our groups and our meetings, but to really dive in and really work towards growth. And so that's the hope with those two aspects. And so it's been a big challenge for our church. I had a really awesome opportunity last week. I got to be on a podcast, a leadership podcast, church leadership podcast, to talk about how looking at the challenges ahead, end times, whatever we want to call it, looking at how that impact leadership and pastoring. It's the first time I've got to have that conversation after doing this, since 2012. And so it's so excited about that, because that's been my hope all along, is that as pastors, as leaders, that we could look in the Word, see where things are going, see where things are, and lead towards that, and prepare our people. And so that's what we're trying to do on the positive end at our church. We're trying to say, okay, this is where we're at. What do we need to do? What's the solution? Someone challenged me to be a Joseph, not just talk about what's coming and warn, but what can you do about it? And so that's what we're trying to do at our church, and that's what we're trying to do through the Stand Firm Circle. And so, so hopefully those things are still going strong, and we're seeing fruit from that.
Sounds exciting. Well, Jake, by the time we get together again, your website will have been in operation for what, about 2 days, 3 days, you figure?
That's right. I'll make it go live right before we come on. That way, so I won't eat my words.
We're going to hold you to it, Jake. Well, hey, it's always good to talk to you, and say hello to my old friend Carl Gallops, who saved my life by not killing me.
Such an incredible story. That's so wild.
And we look forward to seeing you then, Jake. You're always a good one. Appreciate you sharing with us tonight.
Appreciate what you do. Enjoy
All right,
it.
man. Love you, brother. All right, Jake McCandless here on pjnet.tv. There's the view above the Eagle's Nest, the broadcast facilities. There's one of our cameras right there. That's a security camera. There's another one you can barely see up there. And there's about 7 more here in our Eagle's Nest studio, and we're glad you joined us tonight. And but don't leave now, okay? We're going to do some more in just a few moments. At the bottom of the hour, we have a first-time guest. Love first-time guests. The only thing better than a first-time guest is a second-time guest that came back. All right, that comes up. Until then, contemplate these 2 questions, would you? What is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? And then think about, when was that? I hope that none of us will be satisfied with either answer.